This is the best Schecter I've ever owned. It's not perfect, but it's a seriously good guitar from a seriously good brand. What's up, dudes? I hope you're all doing incredibly well. I'm Jack, and some of you might know that I am a massive fan of Aaron Marshall and his band Intervals, so it was always a safe bet that you were gonna see his signature model on the channel at some point. This is the second iteration of the Schecter AM-6, which was first introduced around the beginning of 2023 with the original Arctic Jade model. That model is a beautiful thing and it's still available, but when I saw this, I was glad that timing resulted in me having to wait for a bit, because it seemed to be everything that I could possibly want from a prog-focused S-Type. But just because I'm a fan of Aaron and Schecter, that doesn't mean I'm going to give this guitar a free pass. It's got some issues that I think need dealing with, and I'm going to tell you what they are. But first, let's start with the positives, because I need to tell you why this is the best Schecter that I've ever owned. If you've seen the unboxing video, you probably heard me say this. First impressions, dude. This is... I'm not going to say it just yet, but this is a fucking great guitar from Schecter. Maybe the best Schecter I've had. Even within the first hour of owning this guitar, the initial impression was so strong that I nearly blurted out such a bold claim. Now that I've had a chance to sit with it and I've enjoyed every second with it, I'm ready to say it. It blows every other Schecter I've had out of the water, and I really like my old Schecters. The first thing you notice when you get it out of the box is just how good this guitar looks, and the quality of the fit and finish is super high. The royal sapphire satin colour with the matching headstock, all against roasted maple, black hardware, the white pickups popping. It's exactly what I would do if I ever got the chance to spec my own signature guitar. I'm a massive sucker for blue guitars anyway, so it ticks every single box in terms of looks, but it also ticks them in specs as well. It's got hip shot grip lock locking tuners, a Graphtec nut, and a Jaketto 510 trem, so basically the holy trinity of keeping your guitar in tune until the f***ing end of time without a locking nut. In my experience, this is the most stable setup for a non-locking trem equipped guitar, and it's definitely aided by having a carbon reinforced roasted maple neck, which is killer as well, dude. Aside from being more solid than the Millennia boss fight, it's a super comfortable thin C, and it actually is a thin C. A neck profile that's been accurately named. I never thought I'd fucking see it. Think Fender C profile, but good. Nah, I'm just joking, the Fender profiles are fine, but this is quick, it's comfortable, and it's not too thin. It's 20mm at the first fret and it's 22mm at the 12th, and it just feels right to me, dude, and all that helps having like a really slick feeling finish on the back of the neck. It's also got a 12 to 16 inch compound radius board and extra jumbo stainless steel frets. It's just like the whole package, dude. This guitar feels exactly how I would want a performance S-Type to feel. I've had a lot of them in the past, and this one just feels right. The more traditional shape, the feel of the neck, the specs, but my favourite thing about this guitar is how it sounds. The Schecter USA Aaron Marshall Solstice and Equinox pickup sets in this are awesome, dude, but there's a twist with that. Before that though, seeing as we're talking about specs, I do need to tell you about the setup from the factory, because that is a bit of a problem. Right out of the box, the guitar felt absolutely awesome to play, but the problem that I've started to see is a bit of a hidden one that you need to know about. I don't want to bash the finishing work on the guitar at all though, because the actual guitar itself is f***ing awesome. The construction, the fretwork, everything. It's all so good, but the setup in one aspect just let it down. So in the unboxing video, I started to play it and it felt f***ing great. The action is spot on, the neck relief was perfect. Even now, I've not done anything to it apart from change strings, partly for the purpose of this video. But then I noticed something. Trem's a little bit stiff. I don't know whether I need to take a spring out or something like that, but there's not a lot of sort of like wiggle room in this trem. It's a little bit tight. Could do with being a little bit more fluttery, a little bit more wiggly. What I started to notice is that the trem is pretty stiff, particularly when pulling back rather than dipping it forwards. At that point, I didn't think too much of it because I was filming. It's weird enough being in front of the camera at the best of times without trying to diagnose a minor issue with the guitar. I just thought I needed to take a spring out, or the strings were shit or something like that, but the more I thought about it, the more it didn't make any sense. Dipping the bar was okay, but pulling it back and doing flutters and that sort of thing, it just wasn't having any of it, and that is absolutely not the same as my experience with this trem on other guitars. They're usually a super flexible, pretty light, just good feeling trem, and this feels heavy and dead. So I decided to take the back off the guitar, and this is what I found. At first it looked pretty normal, 3 springs on the centre claws, that's not unusual. Actually, while we're here though, look at where that ground wire is soldered. That is f***ing dumb, I'm sorry, there's no other way to say it. Just solder the ground wire to the flat part of the trem claw and then we can set up the guitar springs however we want them. Anyway, I saw the springs and thought, yeah, that might be why it feels heavy, but it still didn't make a lot of sense until I decided to pull back on the trem arm and then I heard this. Well, now you've seen it. Well, I guess as you just saw when that spring decided to make a leap of faith, the springs are disengaging from the claw completely, which basically just stops the trem functioning as it should. For a trem to work, it needs to be completely balanced. There needs to be equal tension on either side of the trem from both the springs and the strings. That way, when you use the bar, the weight of the block acts as a sort of pendulum, giving the trem a sort of light, bouncy feel that all good trems should have. When the springs come off the claw, it just breaks balance entirely and then fetches the trem back to centre. Luckily though, that doesn't mean the guitar is broken in any way. The guitar is absolutely fine. I just need to remove one spring and then pull the claw further into the body to get the tension balanced right. But that's a job that if you took this to a guitar centre to do, they're gonna charge you for it. And if you're not into maintaining your own guitars like I am, then essentially you've ended up with a guitar that's not functioning properly. For any less experienced players who aren't used to maintaining their own guitars, that f***ing sucks, dude, honestly. Obviously this is just my experience with this one guitar. It's entirely likely that if you bought one it'd be fine, but then again, maybe it wouldn't be. I haven't corrected this setup issue yet because I wanted to show you what was going on in the video, but I'm confident that when I do set it up, it's going to be absolutely fine. Like, there's so much room behind this claw that I've got no worries at all. I think this really lets the guitar down, which is such a shame because it's so f***ing good everywhere else, but just the last part of the factory process might lead some people to pick this guitar up and think, this trem is garbage, and just end up getting rid of the guitar altogether. Setup is such an important part of a guitar and this really needs to be done better, and I know Schecter can do it, but even with these issues, it's still one of the coolest sounding guitars I own. The Schecter USA pickups in this guitar are absolutely f***ing awesome, dude. For a little while now, it seems less and less common that you're getting the big brands of pickups in Schecter's guitar, like Seymour Duncan, EMG, Fishman's and that sort of thing. What you're actually getting is custom shop Schecter pickups that are for the artist themselves, which is killer. Brown's got a set, Nick Johnston, Sinister Gates, obviously, and now Aaron Marshall's got his own set with the Solstice and Equinox. Currently, you can't buy these pickups as a calibrated set directly from Schecter like some of the other ones you can get. I've actually contacted Schecter to see whether you're going to be able to buy these pickups as a standalone set in future, but I've not heard back from them yet, which is understandable because who wants to talk to a f***ing YouTuber? They've got that biting, punchy quality that you hear in so much progressive guitar music, so if that's why you're buying this guitar, then you're gonna be happy, dude. But the surprising thing is that the full fat humbucker is not my favourite tone on this guitar. It's the f***ing split bridge. This is coming from a guy who says this. Bridge and neck humbucker is all I really want. I could live with a two-way switch, honestly. I'm a simple guy. I like a bridge humbucker and a neck humbucker, and that's pretty much where I live all the time. I never in a million years thought I would like the split bridge tone on any guitar the best. Don't get me wrong, the full buckers sound quality. They're chunky enough to make me very happy, but that split bridge just tickles my brain in a way that the other tones don't. The neck and neck split are both great too, but I think the versatility of this guitar's sound is such a strong feature that every guitarist would manage to get a tone out of it that they like. They've done such a great job with it. One minor issue I have with the sound of this guitar is that there is some sympathetic resonance coming from somewhere on this instrument. There's a ping coming from somewhere on this guitar when I chug on the low strings, but to me it isn't that big of a deal, though I get why it would be to other players. Apparently this is something that was present on the older models too. Now if you want a more in-depth explanation on that, there's an awesome channel called Plant-Based Riffs, and Jared does a sick job of going into his experience with it. For me, it doesn't happen all the time. I don't find the noise that intrusive, and it's not causing me any problems at all when I'm recording guitars, so I'm just not that bothered. That's not to say that I don't think it's an issue, but I also don't think my guitar's presenting the same thing that Jared's was. I've got a strong suspicion that what I'm hearing relates to the trem setup, so I want to get that sorted first before I decide where to go from there. That said, it's something you need to know about, but I personally don't think it takes anything away from this guitar. Schecter and Aaron have made one of the coolest guitars I've ever had with this thing. I know I'm a fan, but I'm also a fan of not having shit guitars, so I'd obviously tell you if this was bad. It was always on my list because it's Aaron's signature. Now, it might not make me half the guitarist that he is, but at least I can pretend while I'm trying to get better. There's a lot to be said about having a guitar that inspires you. Now, I know people say that all the time, but if your guitar genuinely gets you stoked to play and you can't wait for the next time you can pick it up and practice, then it's something special, and this does that for me. Yeah, the trem setup is fundamentally wrong, but it's not broken, and I can sort that with a little bit of work. The way you can get around that is just by trying to buy one of these guitars in the flesh if you want one. If you can't, or you just buy all your guitars online like I do, and you order this guitar, or any Schecter guitar with a floating trem really, then just be aware that you might get one that's been set up by the dude in the factory who's not floating the trems properly. Thanks so much for watching, my dude, I massively appreciate you. If you like what I'm doing here, or you just feel like blessing my dumb channel with a subscribe, then that would be awesome. Take care mate, stay safe. I'll see you later.